Humans commonly link grief with crying, viewing it as an exclusively human emotion. However, grief is not limited to humans. Birds also experience loss. Birds express their grief through specific and observable behaviors. These behaviors indicate an emotional response to loss within avian species. Therefore, grief is a shared experience across different species, including birds. Birds are often underestimated as creatures driven solely by instinct. However, birds possess complex emotional lives. They are capable of forming deep and meaningful social bonds within their communities. These bonds contribute to their survival and overall well-being. The discovery of grief in birds requires meticulous scientific investigation. Identifying grief in birds is challenging due to their subtle expressions. Careful observation is essential to detect these nuanced behaviors. Scientific analysis is necessary to validate the presence of grief. Researchers must employ rigorous methodologies to study avian emotion. These studies contribute to a deeper understanding of animal cognition and emotional complexity. Birds do not express grief through overt displays like tears or vocal cries. Instead, their grief manifests through subtle behavioral changes. Observing these changes requires careful attention to detail. Keen observation is necessary to recognize the signs of grief in birds. Historically, bird behavior was primarily attributed to instinct. Bird vocalizations were thought to be limited to mating calls and warning signals. Modern research indicates a more nuanced understanding of avian behavior. Birds exhibit complex emotional capacities beyond basic instincts. The phrase "birds cry" describes observable behaviors indicating sadness or loss. These behaviors can manifest as a sudden and noticeable silence within a flock. Birds may also exhibit repeated, specific calls that signal distress or mourning. Remaining close to a deceased mate is another observed behavior. Isolation from the rest of the flock can also indicate emotional distress. These actions collectively represent a bird's response to loss or grief. Crows exhibit observable mourning behaviors upon the death of one of their own. When a crow dies, other crows gather around its body. This gathering resembles a funeral-like scene. During the gathering, crows emit specific vocalizations. The crows also cease their usual activities during this period of mourning. Crows exhibit unique behaviors when encountering deceased members of their species. Instead of merely touching the corpse, crows observe it intently for prolonged durations. During this observation, they emit low-pitched vocalizations. These calls are distinct from their typical, everyday communication sounds. Scientists are investigating the motivations behind certain crow behaviors. A key question is whether these behaviors are driven by fear of death or genuine grief. Experiments are being conducted to analyze crow reactions to deceased companions. The focus is on differentiating their responses to dead crows versus other animal species. This comparative approach aims to reveal the underlying emotional or instinctual mechanisms. Certain bird species, including parrots, pigeons, and penguins, are known to form lifelong pair bonds. These bonds represent a deep, enduring connection between two individuals. The loss of a partner can trigger observable grief responses in these birds. This grief highlights the emotional depth and significance of these pair bonds. Penguins exhibit signs of grief when they lose their mates. This grief is expressed through prolonged, mournful vocalizations. Bereaved penguins may refuse to form new pair bonds. This behavior has been documented by scientists studying penguin colonies. Parrots exhibit signs of distress when they lose a companion. These signs often mirror symptoms of depression observed in other species. One common symptom is excessive feather plucking. Affected parrots may also become unusually silent and withdrawn. A noticeable loss of appetite is another indicator of distress. These behavioral changes suggest a significant emotional impact from the loss. Mother birds exhibit strong attachment to their nests and offspring. The loss of chicks triggers a notable behavioral response in mother birds. Bereaved mothers return to the nest after the chicks are gone. These mothers may remain at the nest site for extended periods. They often emit soft calls, indicative of searching behavior. This behavior suggests a persistent maternal bond and searching instinct. Certain bird species are known for their complex vocalizations, often referred to as birdsong. A notable change in behavior can occur following a loss, such as the death of a mate or offspring. One significant indicator is the cessation of singing, a behavior normally associated with these birds. This silence is interpreted as a potential manifestation of grief within the avian community. The absence of birdsong serves as an observable and measurable response to bereavement. Birds demonstrate cognitive awareness of their companions. Evidence indicates birds recognize when a companion is no longer present. This recognition is not treated as a temporary separation. Instead, The absence is perceived as a permanent change in their social environment. Bird brains, despite their small size, are complex neural structures. They contain specific neural centers dedicated to processing emotions. These centers also play a key role in facilitating social bonding behaviors. This indicates a sophisticated level of emotional and social intelligence in birds. Research indicates that birds experience stress hormone release when they lose a companion. This hormonal response mirrors the human reaction to grief and loss. The release of stress hormones is a physiological indicator of emotional distress in birds. These findings suggest a potential parallel between avian and human emotional processing related to bereavement. Certain bird species demonstrate prolonged memory of lost partners. This remembrance manifests as observable behavioral shifts. These changes can persist for extended durations. The study of these behaviors provides insights into avian social bonds. Such findings contribute to a broader understanding of animal cognition and emotion. Audio analysis can differentiate various types of bird calls. Bird calls serve different purposes, such as warning or mating. Unique vocalizations are emitted by birds after experiencing a loss. These loss calls differ acoustically from typical warning or mating calls. The tonal qualities and frequency patterns of loss calls are distinct. Birds may not comprehend death in a philosophical sense. However, birds are capable of recognizing permanent absence. This recognition triggers an emotional response in birds. Their behavior changes when a flock member disappears. This indicates an awareness beyond simple stimulus response. Mourning behavior can extend beyond individual animals to affect entire flocks. This collective mourning manifests as temporary alterations in group behavior. The specific changes in behavior depend on the species and the nature of the loss. Flock-level mourning may involve changes in movement pattern. Vocalization patterns within the flock may also be altered during mourning. These behavioral changes are generally temporary, gradually returning to normal. Pet birds can experience grief when they lose a companion. This grief manifests through observable behavioral changes. These signs of grief can persist for several weeks. Recognizing these signs is important for pet bird owners. Providing extra attention may help alleviate the bird's distress. Observations of birds indicate that emotions are not unique to humans. This suggests emotions are a more widespread phenomenon in the animal kingdom. Bird behavior provides evidence that emotions serve as a universal language. This universal language transcends species barriers. Therefore, emotional expression is a shared trait among various species. Recognizing birds' capacity for emotions introduces ethical considerations. This recognition impacts our responsibilities in how we interact with birds. These responsibilities extend to activities like hunting, where ethical treatment is paramount. Ethical considerations also apply to the confinement of birds, ensuring their well-being. Birds can experience profound grief when they lose a companion. Confining a grieving bird alone can exacerbate its distress. Isolation intensifies the bird's sense of loss and loneliness. This heightened grief can negatively impact the bird's overall health. Health decline may manifest as reduced appetite or lethargy. Supportive measures are crucial to mitigate the bird's suffering and promote recovery.